and laugh at it and scoff at it, or whether they take heed and start taking action like so many of our viewers have done. We are going to win this battle, and Napolitano will keep doing his part, but the part on Fox News apparently is coming to an end. Another alarming item, prepper declared mentally defective, put on FBI list. Now this is David Sardi. You may have seen him if you're in the TV watching culture. I no longer am. On Doomsday Prepper, the popular National Geographic show. And he went into the doctor. He's a very large guy, may have had a lot of heart problems. I've heard about him having breathing problems. And it says, when Sardi refused to have tubes inserted, Olivier, his doctor, insinuated that he would be suicidal and insisted on Sardi going to the emergency room. Sardi refused and left the hospital, but within 15 minutes of arriving at his home, police arrived at his house and forcibly took him to the emergency room. When Sardi later attempted to purchase a Glock 21 firearm, he was flagged by the National Instant Criminal Background Check System and refused the sale. When he appealed, he received a letter from the FBI stating that he had been declared mentally defective and was not allowed to own firearms. Now, there's a few elements to this story. Are they trying to send a message to people in the prepper or near the prepper community out there that they won't be allowed to do what they're doing to try to discourage people from joining this community? I don't know. All I know is I've seen the YouTube from David Sardi, his account of the story, and he says the doctor was trying to insinuate he was suicidal. He told him, no, I'm not suicidal. I'm a Christian. My ethics don't allow me to commit suicide. I'll never commit suicide. But he was put on this mentally defective list anyway, taking away his uninfringible Second Amendment right. And he's gone on to say he really almost lost interest in doing his prep work, saying he even has nothing to live for if he doesn't have his right to bear arms. And whatever you may think of this real interesting character who's being broadcast on TV, he's got a point. I mean, there's something fundamental about that right to bear arms. We can all see the tyranny closing in, and it's very disturbing they're doing this because they're going to be doing it to a lot of returning veterans and a lot of other people too. Anyone who expresses the interest to seek help for trauma, to call those hotlines. You may have seen the case this week where a returning veteran did call one of these help hotlines. He said he wasn't even suicidal, wasn't even talking about that on the phone. Suddenly, the police showed up at his house to disarm him. I mean, this is scary stuff, and they're going to try to bring all these war-weary troops back home and really disenfranchise them from the Second Amendment right. That is another big sneak attack on the Second Amendment. Everyone should watch for that, and we should try to fight against that trend. Because as you can see, it's going to be matched up on the FBI criminal background check. Really disturbing times we're in. Now, back on January 27th, I had to check the date. I did kind of an in-depth report on Bill Gates, because everyone's wondering, why does Bill Gates have 500,000 shares in Monsanto? Why has he suddenly become so obsessed with GMO crops? Why do he and the Rockefeller Foundation have the new AGRA partnership to push GMO in Africa and other parts of the third world? Well, the story goes even deeper than I realized. Back 5 years ago when I was doing research with Alex on Endgame, Alex told me about how it wasn't just Bill Gates, it was his father, William Gates Sr., who had been a board member of Planned Parenthood for years and years and years, for many decades. And I did that research at the time. I forgot about a lot of this, though, and I went back, found the article that's linked. You can find it for yourself off of Wikipedia. Salon from 1998, January 29, 1998. Is Bill Gates a closet liberal? And the point of this article is not whether or not Bill Gates is a, quote, liberal. He's a New World Order minion for depopulation. That's what you need to know. But what's interesting in the article is that before Bill Gates left Microsoft and even set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is now the largest foundation, it's as powerful as government. He's just coming up with all these policies, everything from global seed vaults to geoengineering funds, all kinds of just really wild stuff, making his own policy, and it's taking effect on the whole world. Well, there's a reason. It's because his father, William Gates Sr., is deeply into eugenics as well. For some reason, all these technology people are. If you could pull up the founders list, the foundations who have donated large amounts of money to population control efforts under various names across the world for many years, Many of them donate hundreds of millions of dollars each year, some of them only a few million, but they include the Gates Foundation, but it's also the Hewlett Foundation. It's the Packard Foundation. You know, Hewlett-Packard, both of them separately have their own foundations, all giving money to eugenics, to population control measures, trying to bring down the population rates. Of course, the Rockefeller Foundation is there. The Ted Turner Foundation, who said we should have a 95% reduction of humanity. And of course, George Soros' Open Society Institute, donating to depopulation measures. You probably heard about how they all met in secret at the Secret Billionaires Club in a bid to overturn population. They met at the Rockefeller University. It was all covered up in the media. Well, anyway, I am rambling here, but the point is, Bill Gates' father, before Bill Gates started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, had his own foundation, the William H. Gates III Foundation, and he was giving money to GMO crops back in the mid and late 90s. He gave at least $12 million to the University of Washington, they're from the Seattle area, to lure in the leading biotech professor and scientist at the time, Leroy Hood. He is, or at least was at the time, the William H. Gates III chair of the UW Biotechnology Department. And they spent all this money to build a brand new facility to bring biotech into the mainstream. So why is Bill Gates now pushing GMO? Your answer is right here in plain sight. They've been part of it for a long time. I've studied the Bilderberg membership list. Bill Gates' father attended Bilderberg meetings before even Bill Gates did. Bill Gates himself has been there multiple times. Other people from Microsoft have repeatedly been to Bilderberg meetings. And if I'm not mistaken, even his wife, Melinda Gates, has been to the Bilderberg meetings. Of course, Rockefeller is there every year. They coordinate all these depopulation efforts, and they spend a lot of money, as I covered on the January 27th program, paying media to give them positive coverage. And they're just behind it all. It's interesting to note that William Gates Sr. also was involved for decades with the PATH program. That's the Program for Appropriate Technology in Health, which is one of the leading euphemism agencies for eugenics. He was also involved in donating to the Alan Guttmacher Institute. Alan Guttmacher is a former Planned Parenthood executive, then spun off and had his own foundation pushing these population issues. He was involved with donating to the Department of Population Dynamics at Johns Hopkins University, millions of dollars there, and just everything to do with reproductive health and family planning. And here again is this Salon article by author Andrew Leonard back in 1998 talking about how billionaires have always had a fond spot in their hearts for population control. Names Ted Turner, names Warren Buffett, and George Soros. They're all part of the same club, the Good Club, where they meet with Oprah Winfrey to try to bring down the world population. But whatever you call it, the article goes on to say population control, or, quote, family planning, all buzz terms they coin at various UN agenda meetings and everything else, isn't just a billionaire fad for the Gates family. They are dedicated to it. Bill Gates Sr. was on the national board of Planned Parenthood and was instrumental in getting the Gates Foundation grant for Johns Hopkins. And so there you have it. They've been deeply involved in population control measures for decades. And it's just a fact. And why are all these tech companies involved in eugenics? I don't know. IBM was involved in Hitler's eugenics program, where they put the tattoos on the concentration camp victims and ran the matrix system using the punch card Hollerith system at the time. So for whatever reason, Hewlett Foundation, Packard Foundation, Gates Foundation, so many of them are involved. And there's another thing, too, because you heard about how the high fructose corn syrup was rebranded as corn sugar, because there's been so much opposition in the public. We've had so many victories spreading information about all the poisons they're putting into modern food products. We've covered the aspartame at length. We covered the water fluoridation. We're having a lot of victories there, too. And the corn-associated people have had to back off from that branded name, high fructose corn syrup, and had to rebrand it as corn sugar to try to stop the opposition, to at least slow it. Now GMO crops are trying to do the same thing. That Monsanto Leviathan we thought we couldn't slow is getting the pressure, because Bill Gates is in this clip. Mike Adams, our friend at Natural News, covered it today in a video, and he's on ABC News, one of his paid media partners, where they portray him literally as a saint and tell how he's saving lives.
But over time, yes, countries will need to look at specific GMO products like they look at drugs today, where they don't approve them all. They look hard at the safety and the testing, and they make sure that the benefits far outweigh any of the downsides. And so the sophistication that we have in drug approval, even the poor countries, to avoid starvation, will want to have that for crops as well.
And that's just a little short snippet from a long interview from a paid media partner from Bill Gates, the foremost patron saint of our time, saving lives around the world by pushing GMOs on everyone. I think he probably likes the fact that so many farmers commit suicide when they can't even afford the seeds, let alone all the eugenics effects of the seed itself, of all the GMO crops, the cancer and sterility and organ failure that's been shown in study after study, but he keeps pushing it just like vaccines. Anyway, we're going to leave you with a special video premiere that Alex has put together called America, Land of the Snitch. And of course, the interview with Adam Kokesh is also coming up. But first, we'll give you the quote of the day. Our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, and I think I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what's insane about it. That was John Lennon. And then later they assassinated him. And now we leave you to the intro to Alex's new mini documentary film.
Even though I'm just a lowly person and aren't part of the greater supreme homeland people in black uniforms that I look up to, I'm still part of the federal family that Janet talks about because I snoop for them. And that's what America's about. Total schizophrenic paranoia. Absolutely thinking the terrorists are hiding under every table. Just think, they all look normal, but you know any of them could be a terrorist. Don't trust the public. Only trust Janet, Big Sis Napolitano, and Homeland Security. That's what I've learned, and that's what I do. Yeah, it's in the Communities Against Terrorism alerts. They've put out hundreds of them. They say people wearing blue jeans are using cell phones of the terrorists. I work at a local internet cafe coffee shop, and it told me that there were people doing stuff like trying to have privacy or using voice over IP or communicating through PC games. Man, there's nothing these terrorists won't do. But the number one thing they said was they use cash or credit cards. That's a really scary part. There's a lot of them come in there, a lot of them using cash, and some of them even want to be anonymous and have privacy when they surf the web. Those are the ones you gotta watch. It makes me realize that most of the population are terrorists.
There's so many people using cell phones. There's so many people who've got screen blockers so I can't read what they're saying. There's even more using cash. The terrorists are everywhere.
Hold yourself together.
You can do it though. You can do it for America.
Do it for Janet.
Finally my life means something. I'm the FBI now. Trust no one but Janet Dung Beetle Napolitano. No one but her.
You've always wanted to be part of an elite team. You got responsibilities now. Now get out there and start spying.
We have a large house